let's get back to disco itself. So I don't know how many people are old enough in here. If you lived through the 70s, you remember disco. The only thing I can compare it to, if you're not old enough, is remember the year of the Macarena. The Macarena went from a song that you never heard of, right, to they start asking for it at gigs, so you got to play it. To sometimes you had to play it 2 or 3 times, right, at a gig, because you play it early in the night, and then the bride would come up and say, "Oh, can you play?" And then everybody hated it. So disco kind of had the same cycle, but not like Macarena that all happened in 7 months. Disco had happened more like maybe 3 or 4 years over the scope of the mid-70s. Eventually, disco was everywhere, and people just became sick of it. I'm going to play 2 commercials for you. They're really grainy, they're recorded from the 70s, so forgive the quality, but it's just a good example of the fact that disco was everywhere. These are 2 products that have nothing to do with dance music, but they basically just bogarted that culture and used it in their commercials. So check it out.
It's the same thing, only different. I do it. It's a fresh kind of style. I do it. I do it with 7-Up. I do it with 7-Up. I'm a natural way of doing things. I do it. And naturally brings a smile. I do it.
To undo it is to step out with the best. And nothing mixes with a crowd better than the fresh, clean taste of the young cola.
Give all the way to do it is to undo it. 7-Up.
Disco Danny, king of the hustle. I see you chew a lot of gum.
Sure, Trident.
Why Trident?
It tastes great and it's sugarless. Gotta watch my step.
Well, you know, 4 out of 5 dentists surveyed recommend sugarless gum for their patients who chew gum. Any other reason?
Like the minty flavor?
Like, is it the only gum your mom lets you chew?
Are you kidding?
Trident sugarless gum. Your teeth never outgrow it.
Probably the biggest slap in the face for music fans is when the greatest rock and roll band of all time put out a disco record. And that's when artists or fans, rock fans especially, were pretty sick and tired of this disco, which had come from nowhere and all of a sudden was everywhere. Things came to an end on this night, Disco Demolition Night, July 12, 1979. This happened in Comiskey Park in Chicago. By 1979, everybody was pretty much sick of disco, and this radio DJ who had been fired from a rock station when his format went disco, he approached the White Sox and he said, "Hey, why don't we do a Disco Demolition Night? You've got a doubleheader coming up. In between games, why don't we invite all the fans to bring their disco memorabilia, their records and their posters, and we'll blow it up in center field." Okay? Real smart, right? Riots ensued to the point where the White Sox had to forfeit Game 2 of that doubleheader. But for all intents and purposes, disco was done. I grew up in the 80s, I was live in the 70s, but my awareness is from the 80s, and this saying, "deader than disco," was pretty popular in the 80s. Like, you would just say, "Oh, it's deader than disco." Okay?